Hey gamers, today we're going to look at Explorers of the North Sea and its expansion, Rocks of Ruin. Let's check it out. Setup for the game is very simple. You'll have a stack of tiles here. Each player will get 3 tiles to start off in their hand. They're going to get a Viking ship with 2 Vikings in it to start with. Also, they're going to have a few Vikings, well 5 here, starting off in the mainland as well. They're also going to have 5 little outpost tokens here. You're going to have a stack of settlement tokens here and enemy ship tokens over here. The last player will get this icon. It's called the winter icon. Don't really understand what it is, but it looks like a wolf, the outline of a wolf there, but don't really understand what that's all about. Anyway, and the game is very simple. What you're going to be doing is you're going to take 4 actions on your turn, but before you do that, you're going to play a tile. Now, when you play a tile, of course, it must match, you know, land can't go next to water, and water can't go next to land, so you need to match it up like that. Now, this is a double-sided board, so there's different starts. You can start the game different ways. Basically, the other one has a little island on the other side there. And in the rare instance where you can't play any of your tiles, you'll discard them and draw 3 more from the stack there. But for instance, let's say for my first move, I want to take this one and I could place it here. Now, once I'm done there, by the way, the only rule is you can build anywhere you want to, as far out, far up, even around the back here if you want to. It just can't touch the mainland. So I could build even more tiles around here as long as they don't touch the mainland as well. But anyway, when I do that, I gotta look and see if there's any icons on there. Now, some of them don't have it, but this one does. It has a horse. So what I'd take is a little horse meeple and put it there. Now, there are other types of animals in the game. There are cows, sheep, pigs, chickens, and goats, and they have little meeples for each type of one there, and you'll just place one in that area. Now, before I get to the actions, let me show you what another turn could be. Sometimes you may place one of these down here. If you do, you see this one actually has this little icon on it, which means it is a settlement. If that's the case, you'll take one of these settlement tokens and place it down right here and then flip it over. Another tile you can place here is one of these. If you place one of these, it has this little enemy ship token there. You would take one from the stack here and place it right like that. Now, those are tile placement rules and setup. Let me go ahead and tell you about the actions. Remember, not playing all 3, you're just playing 1 tile and then doing your 4 actions. Your actions can be moving. Moving in a ship can be an action, so that would be 1 action. Go from 1 hexagon to the next, 1, 2 actions. Another action could be disembarking from a ship, so you can go 1 like that. Another action is loading a ship. You can load a ship with these animals, and there are 2 ways to do this. You can either bring the Viking in with the animal, and up to 3 people can stay in here, or you can leave the Viking on land, just kick him into the boat like that. One thing you can't do is you can't just drive by and for an action just pick him up. No, you have to spend an action to disembark the Viking and either, like I said, kick the animal in there or bring him back in with you on a separate action. Same thing with unloading. When they make it back here, if you want this, you have to unload it by bringing the Viking out into the mainland. He just can't kick the horse out of the boat like that. And of course, you can load up any other Vikings too on the next turn as well. Now, I should also mention here that each player is going to start with their own little character card. There are several different ones to choose from in the game, and they each have an in-game scoring ability there. They also tell you what actions you can do here, and it talks about scoring here. These are really awesome. But anytime you deliver livestock to the mainland, you'll just put it here on your player board. Now, another action you can take is by moving a Viking. So for instance, if I move a Viking 1, that'd be 1 action. Raiding a settlement is also an action. If you had the equivalent of Vikings needed for here, in this case it would be 2, some cases it may be 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. Once you establish you have enough Vikings in that area, you can raid that settlement and take this token and put it on your player board. It'll be worth victory points at the end of the game. Another thing you can do on your turn is you can fight an enemy ship. Now, when you do this, you at least need to have 2 Vikings in the boat. You can't do it with just 1 Viking. You at least need 2. And the reason is when you go here, you'll flip this over. Now, sometimes they'll just say, hey, you can keep this, put it on your player board, it's worth a victory point at the end of the game. But sometimes it could be this. You scored a victory point, but unfortunately one of your Vikings died. Any dead Vikings are out of the game. You'd place them on your player board, but they will be scored later on in the game. Another action you can do is build an outpost. Now, to build an outpost, you at least need to have 2 Vikings in that area, surrounding that area where you want to build the outpost. Now, the outpost, building it costs 2 action points. So if I wanted to build an outpost, it would cost me 2 action points right there. Now, once an outpost is built, no one may build another outpost, even the current player, on any of the tiles that are touching where this outpost is built. So for instance, later on, if I wanted to build an outpost here, I could not, because that's touching this tile here, which is where this outpost is. Later on, let's say I added this tile here, I could place an outpost right over there, because that's not touching this tile here. And of course, the game basically will tell you that too. The player board will tell you that. Anyway, so that's the rules with placing outposts. Now, the game ends when the last player plays the last tile from their hand, and then you're going to count up victory points. And all the scoring is right here. So for instance, for delivered livestock, for each individual livestock that you can have multiple sets of these, you'll get victory points. Like for instance, if I got 1 of all 6, I get 21 victory points. But if I only had 4 of a kind, I'd get 10. So maybe I had all 7, which is really good, and then I had an extra pig, sheep, and goat here. I had a doubles of each one of these. Well, those 3 would be 1, 2, 3, 6 victory points. Very easy. Any delivered livestock. Can't be livestock that's in your ship or anything. By the way, Vikings, I should also say, when they're moving across land, they can also move livestock with them, even though it's not in their possession. Another player could come through and load it on their turn. So just because you're next to a pig doesn't mean it's yours. Other players can come in, steal your pig, laugh all the way home. That's how you score livestock there. Constructed outposts. Remember, you have 5 outposts. If you're able to score them all, build them all, you get 20 victory points. But depending on how many you build, you get those victory points. Destroyed enemy ships count 1 victory point each, so each one of these tokens you have will be 1 victory point each. And raided settlements are worth the victory points per their military strength. So for instance, let's say these were the 2 I raided in the game, I would get 7 victory points. Also, Viking deaths. Remember, some of your Vikings can die when battling enemy ships. Depending on how many you have on your player board, you can get up to 36 points if you kill them all off. But those are all your Viking deaths that you can get. They give you victories at the end. And then finally, controlled islands. You get 1 victory point per tile. How a controlled island works like this. It's any completed island that you see on the board. So let's say at the end of the game, I'm here and yellow player's here. Well, who controls this island? Well, I do, because Vikings count for 1 influence, but outposts count for 2. So in this case, I'd have 3 influence, and the yellow would only have 2. So in this case, I would get 1, 2, 3 victory points. Now, I couldn't do that with an island that wasn't yet completed. So for instance, let's say I had, and I do have, an outpost here. If I had an outpost here, and let's say I put all of these in here, and man, look how many tile points that would get me there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, and I own it too. But no, because it's not a completed island, as you see. So big islands are nice to have control on, but they have to be completed or they cannot count. And then finally at the end, you'll score your bonus. And every player board here is different on what their bonus victory point is. His is, if you control more than 1 island, score your 2nd largest island twice. So if I had a big island, or second one, I could score that one again for victory points. And that's his special ability. After you've added up all those victory points, whoever has the most points wins. Now this is the base game here. There is another expansion called Rocks of Ruin. And in Rocks of Ruin, you're getting a few little extra things. First off, you're getting your own little player board, which is really nice. Upgraded player board. You'd actually put your little player slip right there. They have spots for your outpost here. They even have 3 extra buildings. And let me talk about these 3 extra buildings here. The first one is the meal. When you build this, and you build the way you'd build any other regular outpost, but once you build it, you can deliver livestock to the meal, and it's also worth 1 influence on that island. But instead of going all the way back to the mainland, you may build a mill out there and then deliver all the livestock here and then straight to your player board. What the workshop does, it requires only one Viking to be present to construct a building. So remember I told you it takes 2 Vikings or more to construct an outpost or any of these buildings. But if you built the workshop first, after that it only cost 1 Viking in that area. And if you built the barracks, basically it takes 1 more Viking when moving across land. So moving across land, it's worth 2 influence as you see down here. But basically multiple Vikings can move on the same spaces. So earlier if I had Vikings here, for actions I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to move them up. But if I had built the barracks here, I could go 1, 2, 3 and just move them all together. Or if there was 3 of them, I could move them all as 1, which is really cool. The extra buildings there are really awesome. But the game also comes with some bonus tiles. It comes with more tiles. Here they are. Here's the bonus tiles here. One of them is these things. These are extra fortresses here. When placed, and I don't have a place to play them, but when they're placed on the board, you're going to take one of these tokens randomly and put it there. And so when someone raids this settlement, of course they have to have 5 or more Vikings there. When they do that, you flip it over. That's how many victory points they're going to get, and that's how many Vikings could die because of it. So it's a neat other way to kill off more of your Vikings, plus nice way to score some big victory points. Also, there are other tiles in the deck. They're the Shipwreck Tiles. Whenever you go there, you'll place one of these little shipwreck tokens on there, and there are different types of shipwreck tokens in the game, and your new player board tells you what each one does. For instance, if it has wood on it, basically you would spend 1 action to build a structure with 1 Viking. So instead of 2 actions to build a building, if you have wood, it only costs 1 action. You have provisions here, which is basically bread and meal. Basically you can cash it in to get 2 additional actions. Some of them are like the little siege weapon here. If you get that one, then basically when raiding settlements or fortresses, you have to pay 1 less. So for instance, on that settlement here, let's say it was a 3. If I paid my siege ram, I could bring it down to a 2. Now, you can't use multiple ones of these. So if I had 2 of them, could I cash them both in and make this one a 1? No, I can only use 1 per settlement or fortress. These are the fortresses here when I'm on a raid. And the final thing here is gold that you can get in one of these little shipwreck token tiles, and these are just basically 3 victory points at the end of the game. Final thoughts, what do I think about the game? Well, I don't have the expansion box for Rocks of Ruin because this came all in one big Kickstarter game I bought online from someone, and I'd heard about this North Sea trilogy and I decided to give it a try, and the first one I tried out was Explorers, and it's a fun, simple tile laying game and taking your actions. But there is some strategy involved, and we did have a lot of fun. In fact, turns go pretty fast. The one thing about this, and the instructions I think do say this, is sometimes, and a lot of times, people forget to play the tile. You're so wrapped up in the 4 actions you want. Everyone knows exactly what they want to do. And those 4 actions go quick, man. But they know exactly what they want to do. So it's their turn, they do all their actions. Then later on you go, hey, and then when I'm placing my tile, they go, oh, I forgot to place my tile. And then we have to wait for them to place their tile and move on. Or sometimes they're forcing one tile to work, and it's not going to work. There's a game I have in my collection. What is it? I can't remember. Northwest Passage. And it's a great game, but you're trying to fit these tiles in, and there's a lot of analysis paralysis. This one isn't as bad because the tiles are pretty simple to understand that, hey dude, none of your tiles are going to fit, so just give up. You got to put that tile someplace else, because everyone goes, I need to cash in my tiles, none of them fit. No, none of them fit the area that you want to put it in, because everyone's trying to finish their big island that they're trying to get that's the other thing, you're trying to complete islands too, and trying to keep Vikings and build, oh man, building those outposts before someone else is just, it is so important in the game to do that. But like I said, a lot of good strategy. Now, Rocks of Ruin, should you get that one? To be honest, yeah, I think you should. It really adds a lot. Those 3 extra buildings are just awesome. The player board's nice, and the shipwreck tokens are even nice too, especially those provisions that give you extra turns. Now, unfortunately, my copy is somehow missing those. Hopefully I can get those. But anyway, I like that idea because there's more out there. And when we played it, we didn't really miss the provisions, but we went out there and we're getting all the other things. We went, wow, this is really neat. So it definitely adds to the game. That is one you should get. There's another expansion that's kind of expansion of all the North Sea trilogies put together, and I don't have that one yet. But anyway, Explorers, as is. Pretty solid game, very enjoyable, and yeah, worth your time if you want to get it. But I would get that expansion as well. I do think it's worth it. All right, gamers, that's all the time I have for now. Until then, game on.